Hello and a very warm welcome to a brand new edition of World Panorama with me, Frank PEREIRA, on Rajya Sabha television. Over the next half an hour, we'll bring you a roundup of all the significant events that have happened around the world this week. But first, a look at the headlines. After a successful round of talks, North Korea agrees to send athletes to February's Winter Olympics in the South. Seoul proposes that athletes from the two Koreas march together at the opening ceremony. President Donald Trump says the US could conceivably return to the 2015 Paris Climate Accord if an agreement treated America more fairly. US President says the deal is not fair for America but has no problem with the accord itself. "124 MPs and 17 mayors of Indian origin from 23 nations converge in New Delhi for a conference. Government hosts the eminent PIOs to brainstorm on how they can help in strengthening India's ties with their countries of residence. Maldives Foreign Minister holds talks with External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj. Leaders discuss bilateral issues and irritants causing trust deficit between the two countries. Malé assures India of its India First policy. Our top focus on the program this week. North Korea has agreed to send athletes to February's Winter Olympics in South Korea. The move is seen as a historic development in inter-Korean sports exchanges after months of escalating tensions over the North's rapidly advancing nuclear missile program. The meeting between Pyongyang and Seoul in Panmunjom has come as a symbolic breakthrough. South Korea has also proposed holding family reunions. Here's a detailed report.
North Korea will send a delegation to the 2018 Winter Olympic Games in South Korea in February. The breakthrough announcement came as the countries met for their first high-level talks in over 2 years. The talks are taking place in the Panmunjom Peace Village in the demilitarized zone at the border. The North Korean delegation that will travel to South Korea will include athletes and supporters. The Games will be the first time that North Korea has taken part in the Winter Games in 8 years.
We came to this meeting today with a serious and sincere attitude, with the thought of giving our brethren invaluable results as the first present of the year. The North's participation in Pyeongchang Winter Olympic is needed to promote Peace Olympics. We'll consider lifting of sanctions against North Korea if it is necessary to facilitate the visit of delegation under consultation with the UN Sanctions Committee, the US and relevant countries.
During the talks, South Korea proposed inter-Korean military talks to reduce tensions on the Korean peninsula and holding family reunions during the Winter Olympics for people separated by the Korean War. Seoul also proposed that athletes from the two Koreas march together at the Games opening ceremony and other joint activities between the two nations during the Games.
We propose to hold a Red Cross meeting to discuss family reunions in time for Lunar Year and hold inter-Korean military talks to prevent accidental clashes. North Korea will also send a delegation to the Pyeongchang Olympics.
Meanwhile, Japan has welcomed North Korea's change in attitude but maintained its stance that the UN sanctions imposed on Pyongyang's nuclear weapon and missile development programs have to be strictly implemented.
Their nuclear weapon development program is a threat to the regional and the international community. And the UN has implemented very strict sanctions, so we maintain our stance.
Tensions have been rising in the Korean peninsula as the North continues to rapidly advance its banned nuclear weapons program. However, in his New Year address, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un proposed holding the dialogue with South Korea to discuss his country's participation in the Pyeongchang Games. South Korea welcomed the proposal and followed up by reconnecting the direct communication link at the joint security area between the two Koreas. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And joining me for a chat this week to talk about this is former diplomat S.R. Tayal. Ambassador, welcome. Thank you for joining me on the program.
Thank you.
What do you make of this thaw in ties between the two Koreas?
I think it's a very important first step, because for the last 2 years, even after repeated tests of missiles and nuclear tests by North Korea, America and South Korea and other countries were asking for a dialogue. Please talk, let us start talking. And North Korea was not responding. Now, for the first time, at least North Korea is talking at some level, but of course it is not on nuclearization issue. It's only on the participation in the Olympics. But at least there will be some talk, and South Korea's attempt will be all the time to widen the dialogue, to widen the agenda. But it also shows that North Korea is completely controlling the agenda. And also what will happen whenever it wants, it can escalate the situation. Whenever it wants, it can de-escalate, it can start on talks, and other countries are responding. Another issue which one has to see is that why has suddenly North Korea asked for these talks and coming for the Olympics?
Are the sanctions hurting North Korea, do you think?
That is what seems to be happening, because the 22nd December last year, those sanctions were very, very harsh, because almost 90% of North Korea's fuel and crude oil, etc., that would be stopped. And it was being enforced because South Korea seized 2 ships on the high seas when North Korea was trying to get some oil in the high seas clandestinely. So that could be one reason, that North Korea wants that sanctions should get somehow a little eased, and that is what it will demand in the coming days.
Do you see the sanctions being lifted anytime in the near future? What is it, do you think, that the South Korea, the United Nations and all the other stakeholders in the region will want from North Korea to do that?
See, all the countries of the world want a denuclearized Korean Peninsula. In the Security Council, the voting for sanctions were 15-0.
Yes.
Even China, Russia had voted for it. Now, this thaw or little bit of dialogue which we are seeing is between North Korea and South Korea. The agenda is only participation in the Pyeongchang Winter Olympics. There is no thaw between United States and North Korea. There is no thaw between Japan and North Korea.
Yes.
So all the other countries of the world would very much want that sanctions must continue, and only because of President Trump in fact has claimed, because of his tough attitude, only North Korea has come to the dialogue table. Very, very important that these sanctions must continue in full force.
So in the days to come, do you believe that the US President Donald Trump is going to keep the pressure on North Korea through the UN and through the US itself, and ensure that North Korea feels cornered, and then actually come to the table and talk about the nuclear weapons program?
Certainly, because President Trump and America's objective is very clear, that North Korea should stop its nuclear program as well as missile program right here, so that it does not acquire full capacity to strike at the mainland United States. North Korea, of course, is claiming they already have it, but
yes.
but the Americans, etc., feel they still don't have the re-entry capacity, miniaturization, etc. There is a kind of a grey zone. But their objective is very clear, whereas the South Korean objective of President Moon Jae-in is that there should not be any war on Korean Peninsula. So there is a bit of a difference in the perceptions of the two allies, United States and South Korea.
And the other country that is in the close vicinity is Japan, of course. How does Japan see all of this, and you know, what do you expect from Japan in the near future?
Japanese are watching very carefully, and they still hope that North Korea will be stopped from acquiring nuclear weapons. But that hope is now receding, and when one talks to the Japanese diplomat, they say that what will happen, nobody knows how Japan will react, whether Japan will itself go nuclear or South Korea will go nuclear, or American weapons, nuclear weapons will come in Japan, but all that will in the future. They are not yet articulating how they will deal with a nuclear North Korea.
You know, this thaw that we have seen suddenly after 2 years between the two Koreas, is it sustainable? What do you think is going to happen?
It is sustainable between the two Koreas. We have to make a distinction here. The South Korean president at this time is a liberal president. He comes from the tradition of the Kim Dae-jung and Roh Moo-hyun, who had summits with Kim Il-jung.
And he has always maintained that he wants to have ties with North Korea.
Ties with North Korea and unconditional talks.
Yes.
Their approach is that let us talk to North Korea, let us not try to isolate North Korea, let us bring them in the mainstream, give them confidence, etc. So they will continue on this path irrespective of what the United States says.
Sure. Okay. All right, Ambassador, we'll have to leave it at that. Thank you so much for joining us on the program and putting things into perspective for us.
Thank you.
Well, moving on now, President Donald Trump has said that the United States of America could conceivably return to the landmark Paris Climate Agreement. Addressing a news conference, Donald Trump said that he had no problem with the agreement, but with the deal that was signed. He called it a bad deal for the United States. Trump said his primary concern was that the accord treated the U.S. unfairly. He added that if a better deal could be reached, Washington could be persuaded to rejoin. Trump claimed the deal put huge penalties on the United States and made it very difficult for its business. He also insisted that the deal took away a lot of asset values from the country. In June, Trump withdrew the U.S. from the Paris Agreement that was agreed upon by over 190 countries during the previous Obama administration. The central aim of the Paris Agreement is to strengthen the global response to the threat of climate change by limiting the rise of global temperatures in this century to well below 2 degrees Celsius to 1.5 degrees Celsius. It also calls on countries to combat climate change and accelerate actions and investments needed for a sustainable low-carbon future, as well as to adapt to the increasing impact of climate change. Well, Maldives has assured India that it will not indulge in any activity that is detrimental to its interests. Visiting Maldivian Foreign Minister Mohammad Asim also told the Indian leadership that India's security concerns will be taken care of in its relations with any other country.
Foreign Minister of Maldives Mohammad Asim met his Indian counterpart Sushma Swaraj in Delhi on Thursday. Besides discussing issues of bilateral importance, they also exchanged views on incidents that are causing a trust deficit between the two countries, especially in the wake of Maldives signing a free trade agreement with China, while allegedly keeping the opposition in the dark.
The Maldivian Foreign Minister, he arrived yesterday, and today is a series of meetings he is having. He already had a meeting with the External Affairs Minister. EM also hosted a lunch for him. We do attach high importance to our relations with Maldives. They have a India first policy. We have a neighborhood first policy. I think it is important for two countries to work together.
The Maldivian Foreign Minister also met Prime Minister Narendra Modi and conveyed the message of Maldivian President Abdullah Yameen. To further address India's concerns, Maldives is sending Defence Minister Adam Sharif to Delhi to meet Union Defence Minister Nirmala Sitharaman. Maldives is a small but strategically located country on Indian Ocean and very significant for India's larger security goals. Akhilesh Suman's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, it's time for a short break now. Still to come, US envoy Kenneth Juster makes his first policy as ambassador to India, identifies defense and counter-terrorism as the key pillars of Indo-US cooperation. That and much more on the other side. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
MC मैरी कॉम सफलतम भारतीय महिला मुक्केबाज, विश्व चैंपियनशिप में 5 स्वर्ण और 1 रजत, लंदन ओलंपिक्स में कांस्य और एशियन गेम्स में कांस्य पदक विजेता। 5 फीट 2 इंच लंबी मैरी को किया जाता है दुनिया की सफलतम महिला मुक्केबाजों में शुमार। खेलों में वरिष्ठ योगदान के लिए उन्हें मिले हैं पद्म भूषण, अर्जुन अवार्ड और राजीव गांधी खेल रत्न पुरस्कार।
Tales that inspire. Stories of social change. A salute to diversity. Promoting public discourse. Events that motivate. Inspiring the innovative spirit. Watch Rajya Sabha television documentaries.
Welcome back. You're watching World Panorama with me, Frank Pereira. The US is working closely with India to get it the membership of the Nuclear Suppliers Group. Stating this in his first policy speech after taking over as the US ambassador, Kenneth Juster expressed hope that India will also soon join the export control regime Australia Group. He also said that the US is clear that it will not tolerate cross-border terrorism or safe havens for terrorists anywhere.
US Ambassador to India Kenneth Juster on Thursday stated that both India and the US are working together for India's membership in the NSG. Speaking in great detail about the strong relationship between both countries, he said America looks at India as an emerging power in the Indian Ocean.
A number of US companies have reported increasing difficulties conducting business in the largest market in the region, China. Accordingly, some companies are downgrading their operations there, while others are looking with great interest at alternative markets. India can seize the strategic opportunity.
Explaining America's stand on terrorism, US Ambassador said American leaders, including President Donald Trump, clearly believe that terrorism cannot be tolerated at any cost.
We've made completely clear that we will not tolerate terrorism, cross-border terrorism, or any form of terrorism, or safe havens of any type. And we work closely with India on issues of information sharing and other types that relate to terrorism more broadly, going beyond just what's happening in Afghanistan.
Meanwhile, cross-border terrorism was also the only topic of discussion at a recent meeting between the National Security Advisors of India and Pakistan. On Thursday, the government disclosed that both NSAs had met in Thailand on December 26th.
जैसे DGMO लेवल पे चर्चा होती रहती है, मुलाकात होती रहती है, BSF और पाकिस्तानी रेंजर्स के बीच में भी मुलाकात होती रहती है, रेगुलर मैकेनिज्म उनका है.
The Foreign Ministry also said that while there can be negotiations with Pakistan, terrorism and talks cannot go together. Akhilesh Suman's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, Indian origin politicians who attended the first PIO parliamentarians conference in Delhi earlier this week appreciated the government's efforts in organizing such an event. They said initiatives like these will not only help India improve its ties with other countries, but also increase its business and tourism. They also praised Prime Minister Narendra Modi for his encouraging address at the event.
India on Tuesday hosted 121 MPs and 18 mayors from 24 countries at the first Pravasi Parliamentarians Conference in New Delhi. Expressing their satisfaction at the way the event was conducted, the parliamentarians complimented Prime Minister Narendra Modi on his speech.
Well, firstly, I found the speech of Prime Minister Modi to be highly motivational, highly inspirational. I consider that he had a very clear vision of what he wants for India. I've been visiting India since 1972, and this is my 10th visit to India. But the transformation that I've seen in the last 5 years has been phenomenal, really phenomenal, not just in infrastructure, but I see a very big shift in the way people are now disciplined about India and about what they want for India.
The parliamentarians said the event has given them a whole new perspective about India and the Indian development story.
I had a very different picture of India. When I reached here, it's very developed. Delhi is very clean, contrary to what we are told to believe. And the main thing is that the rule in India, the powers that may be, are very focused on development.
The conference also saw the participation of Indian origin parliamentarians from Britain, who felt the endeavour will only help improve networking among Indian origin people in different countries.
My contention is that this was probably the best thing the Indian government could do, invite so many countries in one go and talk to them in one shot. So we people are all going to go back with one message in different countries, which means that we will be talking something which is of strength for the country.
The first of its kind, the event was intended to reinforce the India connect of the diaspora. And judging by the reactions of the participants, it seems to have achieved its objective. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, much else has unfolded around the world this week. Here's a quick roundup of some other international news in Globe Watch. In a relief for Indian techies, the United States on Tuesday said it is not considering any proposal that would force H-1B visa holders to leave the country. The announcement came days after reports emerged that the Trump administration was considering tightening H-1B visa rules that could lead to deportation of at least 750,000 Indians. Meanwhile, a legislation that seeks to push for a merit-based immigration system and to increase the allotment of green cards was introduced in the US House of Representatives on Thursday. The bill seeks to increase the allotment of green cards by 45% from the current 1,20,000 to 1,75,000 per annum. The death toll in the California mudslides rose to 17, while another 28 injuries were reported in Santa Barbara County. More than 100 homes were destroyed and 300 others have been damaged. Santa Barbara County Sheriff Bill Brown said 13 people remained missing following the mudslides. More than 50 people have been rescued already, but many places were still inaccessible. A US-based exploration firm is set to resume the search for the missing Malaysia Airlines flight MH370 in a bid to resolve one of the world's greatest aviation mysteries. Flight MH370, carrying 239 people, disappeared en route from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing in March 2014. Australia, China and Malaysia ended their search without any result in January last year. Investigators believe someone may have deliberately switched off the transponder of the Boeing 777 before diverting it over the Indian Ocean. China denied reports of its plans to build a military base at Jiwani in Pakistan's Balochistan province close to the strategic Chabahar port, calling it unnecessary speculation. Chabahar port is being jointly developed by India, Iran and Afghanistan. According to reports, Pakistan may allow China to build a military base in Jiwani, which is also close to the Gwadar port. The Westminster Magistrates Court in London granted bail to embattled liquor baron Vijay Mallya till April 2nd in connection with his extradition case. The judge extended Mallya's bail as it raised concern over the reliability of evidence provided by India in connection with the case. Mallya was arrested by Scotland Yard on an extradition warrant in April 2017 and has been out on bail on a bond worth £650,000. Well, let's now shift gears and bring you up to speed with all the sports news you might have missed in sports action. Australia beat England by an innings and 123 runs after dismissing England for just 180 runs on the final day of the fifth test to clinch the Ashes series 4-0. English captain Joe Root top scored for his side with 58 runs before getting retired hurt. Australia's bowling attack dismissed England's last four batsmen for just 36 runs after lunch. Pat Cummins was the pick of the bowlers as he took 4 wickets while Nathan Lyon took 3. Australia's Nick Kyrgios beat American Ryan Harrison 6-4, 6-2 in the Brisbane International final to clinch his maiden tour title on home soil. Kyrgios made a slow start due to a knee injury and was forced to save 5 break points. Kyrgios became the second Australian to lift the trophy in the tournament's 10-year history after Leighton Hewitt in 2014. Philippe Coutinho signed his new contract with Barcelona after completing his club record transfer from Liverpool. However, he will not be able to make his Barcelona debut for about 3 weeks because of a thigh injury he sustained while at Liverpool. Barcelona agreed to a £142 million deal with Liverpool last Saturday to buy the Brazilian playmaker. A goal in stoppage time by Sergio Aguero helped Manchester City secure a 2-1 win over Bristol City in their League Cup semi-final first leg match. Bobby Reid scored the opener in the 44th minute to help Bristol take a 1-0 lead. But a goal from Kevin De Bruyne for City in the 55th minute equalized the score at 1-1. Sergio Aguero then scored the second goal for City in stoppage time to seal victory. The second leg will be held on January 24. The Boston Celtics beat the Philadelphia 76ers 114-103 in front of a packed O2 arena on Thursday as part of the NBA's Global Game Series. The 8th regular season NBA game to be held in London was a home match for the 76ers, who led 57-48 at halftime and had won their past 4 games. But Eastern Conference leaders Boston rallied strongly to extend their own winning run into 7 matches. Kyrie Irving scored 20 points to help his side towards victory, with shooting guard Jaylen Brown top scoring for the Celtics with 21. Philadelphia's guard JJ Redick was the night's most prolific scorer with 22 points, but his side still slipped to a defeat that leaves them 9th in the 15-team Eastern Conference rankings. And finally, hundreds of hip-shaking and wig-wearing Elvis Presley and Priscilla lookalikes and fans of the late king of rock and roll took a train from Sydney bound for Australia's annual Elvis Festival on Thursday. The festival, in its 26th year, is expected to attract about 25,000 people to parks, more than doubling its population for the duration of the 4-day event. Street markets, lookalike contests, parades, a car show display of Presley artifacts and tribute performances are planned. I'm going to leave you with these visuals from Australia. Until next time, this is Frank Pereira signing off.